We have Alejandro Martinez here.
Woo!
What's up, my friend?
What's going on, Brett? How's it going?
It's doing well, sir.
Yeah.
Look, man, so we met on my other podcast, Marvel Plus. This is
Yep.
actually the Daily BS podcast and YouTube channel.
Yes.
And we had a great time talking about MCU stuff last year. And when I don't know, probably because I made some posts about Once and Always, you reached out to me like, hey, if you're going to watch that, if you plan to review it, I'd love to talk about it. So
For
um,
sure.
we were both on it first day. Like, I think we were both watching it at the same time, talking about it. It feels a little ridiculous, but I don't even care. I'm not ashamed in any way.
Not at all, dude. Not at all. Power Rangers, it goes hard for me growing up in the 90s,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually, I kind of wanted to get where you're coming from with this. Like, when did your fandom start? And how big
Yeah.
of a fan were you when you were younger?
Yeah, so Power Rangers premiered what, 93, I think, like the original Mighty Morphin.
Yep.
I was born 94 though, so probably I want to say
Okay.
maybe late 90s is when I started watching.
Mhm.
But they'd always have reruns, of course, right? So I've watched Mighty Morphin, I've watched Zeo Turbo in Space. I think I've watched everything up until I think Mystic Force in 2006 is like the last one I watched like actively. I
Okay.
know about the ones afterwards, right? The Operation Overdrive, Jungle Fury, even the most recent ones, but I haven't really watched them.
Yeah.
Um, I think I will admit though, the I have not seen the little, what is it, 8 episode, 10 episode Alien Rangers. I never watched that. Couldn't really get into it. I think at the time couldn't even find it honestly. But growing up, I was hardcore Power Rangers. I would want the Zords as like the toys. I'd want the Morphers. Um,
Hmm.
I remember Magna Defender was like my guy. Like I had his sword that turned into a gun. Um, I'm even friends with Justin Nemo, who plays Zane, the Silver Ranger. Like I had him on my podcast a few years back. Like he's a really chill dude. So
Awesome.
love Power Rangers. I'm always shocked, honestly, when younger nerds are like, "Oh, I didn't really watch that," and I'm like, "What? You're missing so much."
Yeah. Yeah.
What about
Okay.
you?
So, well,
What about you?
that's why I wanted to get in this because I knew you were a little bit younger than me, and so I didn't know how a person younger than me gets into Mighty Morphin. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if it's already on to the other generations of Power Rangers, like, how do you get into the original? And I, I guess, I mean, man, you literally grew up with this.
yeah.
Whereas I discovered it, I was 9 years old in 1993. So it was like
Wow.
perfect age for me though. Like, I feel like third grade was like the perfect Power Rangers age, where
Yeah.
at school I feel like the fourth and fifth graders were too cool for it, and then maybe second and first graders were almost too young to care about it. But like
Hmm.
third grade was like prime Power Rangers age, and like half the kids in my school made fun of it, in my grade made
Oh,
fun of it, and half of them, you know, loved it. But the truth is that everyone loved it and everyone watched it. I don't care what they say. Like, the guys who made fun of it, they were watching it too, 100%.
yeah. Of
Because you
course.
see it, you can see it now,
Yeah.
because back then it was like there was like four kids who admitted that they watched Power Rangers, and would go out
Hmm.
on recess and play Power Rangers. And that was me. I was one of those guys. And everyone else kind of was like, "Oh, Power Rangers is stupid. Power Rangers is for kids." Um, and it's just, if that were true, if only like four or five kids from every third grade class were watching it, it wouldn't be as big as it is.
Exactly. Like I still
So
remember the whole reveal of Andromeda being Andrews' sister, and then she comes back as a ranger. Like this whole thing that was like, what? Like she's a
look,
new Galaxy Pink. What?
I see. I have to stop you because I literally, like, when I was saying like fourth, fifth grade, you kind of were
Yeah.
too cool for Power Rangers. That's exactly what happened for me. Like, I was never too cool for it,
Really?
but I'll tell you what happened. Yeah, I shifted interests a little bit once I
Sure.
hit 4th, 5th grade, I really got into like comic book characters, and I didn't care about Power Rangers as much anymore. I was really into like the X-Men cartoon and Batman the animated series and buying comic books. Like I started buying comic books like 4th, 5th grade.
Yeah.
So um then I kind of fell away from Power Rangers. Like, but Mighty Morphin is like I was diehard fandom, and that's why I
Yeah.
was interested in like you know your perspective because I never watched really anything after. I think maybe a little bit of what's it called, Zeo, which was like the
Yeah.
next generation after Mighty Morphin.
Wasn't the
Uh,
best.
yeah, well, it was like for me nothing compared to that original, you know,
Yeah.
and then it just like as I got older and older, and the show did not get older and older, it was like, okay, I guess I'm not a Power Rangers guy anymore, but I will always have love for Mighty Morphin, and I like know it like the back of my hand, like episode per episode. I know like, um, I remember all the episodes they would string together in like series like Green No More and Green
Yeah.
with Evil, and I don't remember the White Ranger one, but I think that was I don't remember. And then there was like the power transfer where they brought in three new
Mhm.
Rangers and got rid of three old Rangers. Like it was crazy. And right about that time, like as soon as most of the Rangers were gone and it moved into Zeo, I became less interested because I was in love with those original characters and the actors who played them,
Yeah.
right? I
Well, I'm
already
curious.
started
I'm curious.
that.
Did you watch the Mighty Morphin movie, like the OG one in
Yes.
'95?
Yes. I
But
did
then
go
did
see
you
it. And
watch
it was
Turbo at all?
I don't think I did. I don't think I
No.
I might have watched it later in life, like as an
Yeah.
adult. You know, but I don't remember. I don't remember that one. But I definitely the original in 95 really stuck out. You know what's funny though? In my brain, like in my head canon, the original Rangers were all there, but they weren't. Like when I was just watching like, or I just saw the like a movie poster for it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's
Mhm.
right. Tommy was the White Ranger by then, and
Tommy
then
was white by
um,
then, yeah.
there was no Zach, there was no Trini. They were gone already and replaced by the new red, yellow, and black Rangers. So
Yeah.
I had forgotten that was even like that because I was such a fan of those first 2 years. What is it like? Um, I don't know how many, 60 something, 80 something episodes maybe that they put together in 2 seasons. Um,
Yeah.
but I had seen them all over and over and over. I had
Mhm.
VHS tapes. I was a member of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fan club.
Oh, I love that. I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Like I got a monthly shipment from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, like from Saban. I got this like I remember the starter kit. It had like a headshot of every character with like a mock autograph on it, and like I'm sure it wasn't a real autograph, but just cool stuff like that, like Power Rangers stickers and toys and
Mhm.
posters and a magazine would come once a month. Like I was super into it,
I love
crazy
that,
into it.
dude. I'm curious, did you keep any of
Yeah.
it?
No, no. In fact, I lost like so many great things that I had. Like years ago, uh, I think I was probably like 15, and we
Mhm.
we lost our house to foreclosure, and
Mm.
all the stuff in it like was taken. Like I lost all my childhood stuff, my comic book collection, all the movies I had, like everything. Um,
Mm.
so that's
Mhm.
what I've been doing like as an adult is just like rebuilding that, like my original um nostalgic collection. In fact, I buy comics not at all for their value. I'm searching for ones I had when I was a kid. When I go look through comic bins, I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to find those exact issues. Like, oh yeah, I remember seeing this in my box. Like, so no, I do not have anything at all. But I'll never forget like being a member of the Power Rangers fan club, being obsessed. We used to think we actually had power. Like the kids in my class with me, there was like three of us who
Yeah.
thought we were actually Power Rangers, and we would go out on recess and we would like pretend we were morphing, and like we made morphers out of like paper mache morphers. Like
That's so cool.
it was insane. Um, I go hard, like whatever I'm into, I go like super hard, like the fandom. So I
You
went
have to, you have to.
I went from Power Rangers to like I think Saved by the Bell was my next fandom, and it was the same with that.
Nice.
Like I was obsessed with Saved by the Bell, and then the same with like the X-Men and so on and so forth. But Power Rangers, I think, was my very first fandom. Like the first thing I really just loved.
I love that, dude. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think it was honestly
Yeah.
for like, at least in my generation, I think Power Rangers was the big thing for kids born in the 90s. I think Power Rangers and maybe like Digimon slash Pokemon.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like towards the end, so I have a cousin maybe 5 years younger than me, so a little
Mm-hmm.
closer to your age. Like I think he was born in the very late 80s, maybe. And he was really into like I feel like that's when like uh, anime started being more popular, and there was
Yeah.
like Dragon Ball Z and
Yep.
Pokemon and stuff like that. So
Naruto. Yep.
yeah. So um yeah, I remember all that stuff. But nothing like this, and this is kind of an extension of all that too. This is like a live action anime, right? I mean, that's Power Rangers. It's as Japanese as it gets. Like,
Right. I mean, it's based off of the Z Ranger, right? Like
mm,
their Super Sentai franchise that, it's interesting. So Mighty Morphin was the 16th Super Sentai. Like
yes, isn't
it
that
took
crazy?
16 seasons for it to hit the US, and that's how they started.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. When I first found that out, I remember thinking like, that's like if someone else got into Power Rangers through like I don't know what's the newest generate like what's the newest Power Rangers there is right now like
I think it is Dino Fury,
okay,
I
we'll
think.
say it's Dino Fury, and we'll say that's like the 12th iteration or something. You know, it kind of reinvents what every 2 years, every 1 to 2 years.
Yep,
So, um, that would be like that being, where we first discover power. That's crazy. That like
it
in
is.
Japan, in Japan, like we're catching on way late, and we're jumping in the
Yeah,
middle of like this long storyline.
yeah. I mean, in Japan, they're up to 47 by now.
That's wild,
We've had
crazy.
29 seasons,
Hmm.
technically, It's
Yeah.
wild.
They're going on 50 seasons of Power Rangers in Japan. That
Yeah.
is crazy. That's like let's see, 50 seasons. My parents could have been fans of the original Power Rangers, right? Like that's
Yeah.
wild to think about. Generations of fans, and you can see it now. There's generations of fans. I don't think Power Rangers. I could be biased. It. I don't see that it's ever been as big as when it first hit the US, like Mighty Morphin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fandom wise. I'd never seen as many like toys in the store and comic books based on something and coloring books and novels and everything that they
Yeah.
they pumped out the merch.
Even at conventions or what you
Hmm.
see in the stores is a lot of the old stuff being sold again.
Yeah,
The new
100%. And who
morphers, like a
who
new rebranding of them all.
who goes to cons? Like that original cast went to
Right.
cons. Like they
Right.
were famous for going to cons. Like is there a Dino Fury like panel? I don't know. Maybe there is, but I've never seen an advertisement for it. Like, hey, come see the Power Rangers
Yeah.
Dino Fury cast. Like, that's not who everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see the Mighty Morphin cast. They want to see
Yeah.
Austin St. John, which we got to get into this show. This
Let's do it.
special.
Let's jump into it.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite call it a movie, right? Like it's more of a special, like an hour
I
long
call it a
special.
special. Yeah, a special.
Yeah, it felt. I'll be honest, it felt like a long episode of the show. It really did. Like it
Right.
felt almost exactly like watching an episode of the show, right?
Well, and so it's interesting. I was Googling stuff and reading on Reddit. Apparently, so originally, David Yost, the guy who plays Billy
Billy?
Cranston,
Yep.
yeah, not Dave Yost, our Attorney General here in Ohio,
Uh-huh.
but David Yost. Apparently, when they first pitched this, it was supposed to be like a mini series. It was
Hmm.
supposed to be
Okay.
a full 8 episode mini series, and I kind of wished it had been because I did feel at some points it did feel a little rushed. and it felt like, all right, this is 2 or 3 episodes of what that was supposed to be, kind of
Yeah.
Frankenstein together.
Yes. I was gonna say that. I was gonna say I remember thinking yesterday, like, you know what it feels like? Because I watched it several times just to kind of really get like there were so many little Easter eggs and stuff that they threw in and
Yeah,
callbacks to like it was nonstop. And to catch them all, you really have to be paying attention because
yeah,
and I feel like it's for the real fans of the original series because if you weren't, you're not gonna get half that stuff. I mean, they was really like leaned hard into the nostalgia in this, and I mean
yeah.
that was the point of it, right?
Yes and no,
My
though,
thing,
right? Yes and no,
what do you,
because they didn't have the all the OGs.
yeah, I know, and that's exactly where I was going next. Is like
Yeah,
this. I mean, there were some glaring omissions, right? Like there was some stuff that some sadly we couldn't see people return and come back to play their original roles, and then some that actually just turned it down. They didn't want to be involved, and that's
right,
kind of sad as well.
right.
But you know, for something that's like a 30-year anniversary special, I feel like that's like if I got to say something negative about it, I just wish the cast could have come together in a way where we could at least get the living members of the cast back, where we got Amy Jo Johnson back as Kimberly and we
Right.
got Austin St. John back. Because before Tommy came along, which by the way, Jason David Frank, my favorite actor on Power Rangers, my favorite Ranger was the green and white. Um, but before that, and then my second favorite after Tommy came was Austin St. John's
Yeah,
Jason, right?
yeah,
There was no one more intense than Jason. Like
yeah.
when they morphed, his was the most intense, the most aggressive, you know, Tyrannosaurus. Like
Tyrannosaurus.
he was hard, dude. And everyone else was like, they shouted it, they yelled it. He was like, he was ready to kick butt, dude. Like
Yeah,
Jason was that dude. Um, I I would have loved to see Austin St. John reprise
yeah.
his role as Jason, you know? And, I honestly, Jason David Frank could have been in it too because it was filmed before his passing. And
Hmm.
I would like, I just feel like for something this big and to try to recapture that magic and give uh, original fans something really special that they
Yeah.
maybe they shouldn't have done it if they couldn't get everyone on board. You know what I mean? It feels like
Mm.
it feels much more of like a money grab or something. Like I don't know how they're going to grab money. Like I don't think new people are subscribing to Netflix anymore, but like it feels cheap, like cheapened when you can't get everyone on board, so you just write around all of it, and that
Hmm.
that kind of stinks.
See, on the one hand, though, I agree with you. And my pushback, though, is I'm kind of okay with them not coming back, in the sense that it allowed Billy and Zach to kind of be the leads,
Okay,
because let's
yeah,
be honest, the Rangers, they're not the best actors. All right.
no,
But I think there's a reason Walter Jones, right, who plays Zach, kind of had that emotional role. He's one of the better actors of the group,
he is, he
right?
is
Because if
sure,
Tommy was there, if Jason was there, it's going to be a Jason and Tommy story,
100%. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
If Kimberly was there, it's going to be a Kimberly story. It's never really, even in the OG, right? Trini had her few episodes, Billy had his few episodes, but it was
yeah.
never their show. So I kind of appreciate it, like, we're going to spotlight the secondary character, so to say.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. You're right. I was gonna speak on that too. Like I think like we've never seen Billy and Zach in such prominent roles. They're basically carrying this entire thing, and
Hmm.
along with the new cast member, Trini's daughter. I feel like I feel like it it was nice to see them showcased and kind of present like they're actually better actors than I thought, or maybe they've
Yeah.
just improved through the years. I mean, I haven't seen them acting in anything, but I do feel like that they've definitely improved and matured with age. Like kind of grown into being able to act. I think Billy plays a very good adult Billy Cranston, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and they look good too. I think like, um, of all the people that returned in this, the ones that I feel like maybe like stayed in the best shape, and maybe I don't know if they brushed up on their acting or whatever, but I think it was those two. I think it was those two that like stayed in the game more. Whereas the others,
Hmm.
it kind of felt like they called them up, just like they, you know how they appear in the command center and they weren't expecting to. It felt like that's how they got them for the role, right? It felt like they were like,
Yeah.
hey, we can't get Tommy and Jason, but could you guys maybe, Kimberly doesn't want to be here, but maybe we can get Kat. And they were just like, I guess I haven't acted in 25 years, but sure, that's kind of what it felt like for me.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely Billy and Zach, like it was their show,
It was their
100%. Like
episode, 100%.
and eh, yeah, and that's good. That's good. And the whole time I was watching it, like you said, I was thinking this is like a trilogy of episodes. Like it's a 3-part storyline is
Hmm.
basically what we're watching, right? Like 3 18 to 22-minute episodes of Power Rangers stuck together into one special. But as you said, it
Yeah.
could have been 8. I think it should have been 8.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I got one more negative, and then we can get into all the stuff we love about this thing.
Tell me. Tell me.
Yeah. This can go either way.
Okay. I'm
With this
ready.
being such a big deal, the 30th anniversary, it's got a huge fandom all over the world, right? I get the nostalgic bit of trying to make it feel like the 90s show, but at the same time, I feel like they could have just ramped
You thought
up
it was too campy.
not campy, it's more like the martial arts, the effects. I feel like they could have stepped them up a little bit, like, um, just like, okay, so the Power Rangers movie in 1995
Hmm.
looked much better. It was a bigger budget film. It looked so much different than the show, and that was okay. Like the uniforms looked better, the fighting looked better, everything looked better in it. The effects. The only like the only thing that didn't look exactly like the 90s effects and stuff was that final Zord fight, which I thought wasn't bad. Like it it wasn't great. It wasn't like big screen awesome uh you know computer animated. Like it was kind of clunky, but it moved way better than the Megazord from the show. Like the
Yeah.
way that Megazord moved in this, it was much cooler. Like he was spinning around, he was jumping, he was doing stuff that you didn't see him do, you know, because in the show it was literally just like a little like I don't know, a little boxy
Yeah.
cardboard cutout guy.
It
Like
was the toy. It was the toy that they were. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
And then
agree. I think the CGI left a little something to be desired.
yeah, and the fight choreography, I feel like if you're going to use other people in the suits anyway, why not make them really good people in the suits,
Right.
right?
Right.
Ninja Turtles did it really well in the
Yeah.
90s. Um, so yeah, I could have done for better. Um, I'm okay with the wooden acting. I'm okay with it because that's who they are. That's who these characters are in my mind. They're kind of they're not the greatest actors, and they are kind of campy and cheesy, and that's part of the nostalgia for me for the show. How
Yeah.
ridiculous it is. But yeah, step up the martial arts, step up the fight choreography and the animation or effects, and um,
I will say
that
though, shout out to them, old actors doing the martial arts, like for those scenes that they weren't in Ranger form, right?
yeah,
Like shout out to them for at least getting some of that.
yeah, and actually that was my favorite part of the original series. I loved watching the characters fight out of uniform because you knew it was really them, right? Like even as a
Yeah.
kid, you started to put it together, like, oh, that's not them in those uniforms because Jason's way beefier than that. Tommy's way taller than that. Like they don't quite look right, you know?
Yeah.
You start to kind of realize it's not them. And especially like in this movie, you could see like um, some of the characters definitely wouldn't have looked as I don't know, slim and fit maybe in their uniforms if it was really them in the uniform. It was just clearly not the same people in the uniform. And it's fine, but when you do that, why not have really good? martial artists in there or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the last effects thing I want to talk about is Rita turning the Rangers basically just into toys, just little action figures of themselves. They had done something similar to that on the show before, like shrunk them down or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it felt really cheap. Like in this, it's like, come on, this is the 30th anniversary. It's a movie. We got to get rid of these three people who couldn't come here, so we're gonna turn them into toys for the entire episode. And then,
Yeah.
you know, anyway, let's talk about the stuff we enjoyed about it. Or do you have anything that you disliked
My
in particular?
last one was I wished they kind of did call to all the Rangers, right? They had the dolls ended up being Jason, Kim, and Tommy, right? But
Mhm.
they were there physically, so to say. I just wish
Yeah.
there was some sort of shout out to Tanya, right? Tanya was the second Yellow Ranger. Um,
Oh
no,
yeah. Wait,
yeah, no,
was that
third.
second? Probably third. Aisha definitely was the second.
Okay,
Yeah, they did power transfer, and Aisha did show up, and Adam, but they didn't do much, right? Like it was just to
right.
show up. I'm glad they did
So I
though.
would have
I'm
loved
glad that they.
something for Tanya, something for, and her doll was there, right, as like the Zeo Ranger Yellow. But just
Yeah,
bring her in. Let us know what she's up to.
I did like that they alluded to the fact that there were generations more Rangers, and then showed
Yeah,
them all in like the toy form, the doll form, shrunken down, um, and just very
yeah.
quickly showed them. Another glaring missing piece was Bulk and Skull, right? We got one glimpse of a picture of them,
That
and
was
we heard the
some sort of
music.
sign. Yeah.
We heard the music for half a second, and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna be here! It's gonna show them," And I'm just kind of, I guess, I'm really surprised. I don't know, maybe the actors, are they still living? I think if they're still living,
I
I
think what
don't.
I read on Reddit is in one of the more recent seasons, they
Mhm.
have some sort of like mini storyline that kind of
Yeah.
sets them up to be something, so to say,
Okay.
such
Okay.
that I guess it made sense that they weren't then in this. I don't
Okay.
know. Still
I'll.
would have
I'll.
liked it. I agree. Still like something like, oh, we came in to get milkshakes at the end too. Just a little walk on roll, but
I tell you what they did. And okay, this is the last complaint. I swear to God, I really loved this thing. I really did. I really enjoyed it. Um, I feel like they really played fast and loose with the canon of Power Rangers. Like,
mhm,
so when you stop being a Power Ranger, I know it's called once and always, but we've seen them transfer power to other people several times, right?
mhm,
Throughout the show, and new Rangers take over for the old Rangers. And they've even said that,
yeah,
like, there's always been Rangers to protect the world.
right.
How does everyone just still keep their powers? You can be a middle-aged Ranger. There's like thousands of Rangers on Earth.
I think
I
it.
don't.
So what we see in this one at least, right, is Billy says, "Oh, I made new power coins for them to use
Mhm.
for Rocky and Cat."
Yeah.
There's one episode, I think, in some other reunion in more recent seasons where Tommy's character has what is called the Master Morpher that allows him to
Hmm.
kind of access any of his forms before. So he can turn into green, he can turn into white, he can turn into red Zeo, he can turn into
Yeah.
black Dino Thunder. Like he can
Hmm.
kind of just switch them out. And essentially, it's this whole thing of like Billy, is the smartest guy on earth and knows how to work the morphing grid essentially. But I'm
Yeah.
also like, it's Power Rangers. We don't want to question it too much.
Yeah, no, I understand. I guess I maybe it was more of a question. Like, was I under the wrong impression that it went like this generation and then the next generation, the old Rangers kind of went on about their life? You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah,
like, so Billy hasn't morphed in 30 years. You know what I mean? Um,
right.
or Trini or like any of them that were in the beginning, like they haven't morphed in
Yeah,
all this time. And why were they fighting Rita? Like, how come Rita didn't come back and attack the where were the rest
yeah,
of the Rangers? Where was the present day
yeah,
Rangers?
yeah,
But I get they had to, like, if you want to get this group back together, you're gonna have to you got to write something. You got to write around it. And I
Yeah,
get it. They definitely had their work cut out for them to make this work, like as a
yeah.
story. And I thought it actually was a pretty good story. Like it was one of the more uh, deep and emotional stories we've ever seen in Power Rangers, like dealing with grief and
It
loss.
went there.
It
Dude,
did.
the first 5 minutes and Rita's like, I'm gonna kill one of you?
Yeah. Like what? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it was much more mature in that aspect. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. And I love the conversation right away after Trini dies in the beginning is between Billy and Zach is like this conversation like should we tell Min that her mom was a Power Ranger? Should we tell them that we're
Yeah,
Power Rangers and this is why and how she died? Like Rita Repulsa killed her. Like I thought like that was a good discussion to have. And I love that Billy was the one actually saying like some rules can be broken. Like you wouldn't think Billy would be the one who wants to break the rules, but
yeah,
um yeah, he's he and I love too that like he ends up kind of the scapegoat of the story in Min's eyes. Like he's the guy who got her mom killed.
yeah,
Meanwhile, though, he was the one that wanted to be honest with her the whole time. He's the one that like I know Zach steps in and helps raise her, like which is
mhm.
crazy twist too. Like we find out Billy's the head of a tech company. Zach is a congressman, which is wild,
Yeah,
and he retires basically to raise Min after Trini dies.
that's love right there. That's like
Yeah,
allyship, like family right there.
yeah. I'm gonna give up all my ambitions, personal ambitions, to make sure that your daughter is loved and cared for. Like that's amazing, and
Yeah,
that's it. If you want to make a movie about how much the Power Rangers like love and care about each other and they're like a family, like that's it. This they did really good in terms of that in this special.
yeah.
Um, so
I think same on that same note though of tone, like I did feel it was a bit of a whiplash, right? You go from the like
sure,
even just the first 5 minutes, right? It's like, oh, we're getting hype, it's the theme song, all the nostalgia's coming out,
yeah,
to a fight scene where Rita's just like, I just killed Trini, and
yeah,
then oh, how do we tell this girl her mom just got murdered? Like it was a little all over the place in that aspect.
sure,
Um,
yeah.
because
It
then
was
it was also
very
the whole camp of like, oh, we're bringing these two new monsters in too.
yeah, it was very Thor: Love and Thunder for a callback to
Yeah.
our last discussion. Yeah, I feel like you're right. Like, and it might have worked better with the 8 episodes that you were talking about, right? You'd have more time to
Mhm.
do that. You could have had an episode that was more heartfelt and more dramatic, and then you'd have another episode that's a little bit lighter. Like, it's a different, they're dealing with something else, but it's not in the moment of dealing with the loss of Trini or what have you. Like, you have time away from each thing. It doesn't just go bam, bam, back and forth like
Yeah.
drama, pain. Oh, like comedy. We'll throw some comedy in
Yeah.
there and some hype fight music. Quips. I love that Zach at one point says like it's not all. What does he say? Like it's not all. Do you know what it means to be a Power Ranger? It's not all quips and I don't remember what he said, but it was something like that. Like he threw in that it's not just all quirky quips and fighting. I don't know. Anyway, it
Something
was
like that.
it's
Yeah.
basically told her it's about like giving up your personal ambitions for something greater. Like when he's trying to
Yeah.
describe it to Min.
Uh, those with power, with great power comes great responsibility. That's exactly what he says.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah. You love this. You love this. How I we just tie everything back into Marvel.
Exactly. Exactly.
How do you not? Because it's all the same. It's all a hero's journey, right? Like all these
It
stories,
is. Yes.
all the lessons that they teach and everything. It's all just like that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Self-sacrifice and caring for others and rescuing.
Yes.
Um, greater good, right? Um,
What else
let's
did you
see.
love about it?
Um, oh man, I, I keep going back to things I don't like, but it's like I really
I
do
have a
like
few. I
it.
have a few if you
I
want.
swear to you. Real quick though, I
Same.
really wish we could have like you bring back everyone. I want to see Goldar. Gotta bring Goldar back.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, Goldar. And I'll be honest, I really loved when they brought in Lord Zed on the series.
Yeah.
He was such a scarier villain to me than Rita Repulsa.
When he's
Like
the villain right now of the current Power Ranger season.
Lord Zed,
Yeah.
get out of here. Okay, I'm gonna start to watch Power Rangers again. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's
I guess
Zed.
I'm gonna have to. Wow. Mm, that's crazy. I had no idea. What did you think of Robo Rita?
I thought it was kind of cool. Right, this kind of idea that how was it like how do they mention it? So obviously we know Zordon sacrificed himself, and I think they said like, oh, all her evil energy disappeared out into space.
Yeah,
Because
floating
in
around out
Mystic
in space.
Force, we meet the Mystic Mother, which is all the good of Rita, and now she's
Oh,
like the
okay.
queen of magic essentially, but all goodness. So it makes sense that all the evil's out there. But that's what also made this a bit scary for me because unlike this Rita, Robo Rita is literally just the evil of Rita Repulsa.
Ah, true.
None of the good, none of the sister with Divatox or whatever. None of that. Like this is literally just pure evil. Like I thought of her as Voldemort.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I thought it was smart, to have it kind of as a robot because I think the original actress for Rita, has passed away or what have you. So I thought robot works. But the scary moment for me too was all these evil particles just taking over Alpha,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
that was interesting to me, and I don't know.
Yeah. It
I
was.
liked it. She had her campy lines. She had a lot of callbacks, right? She had this callback, of course, like she always says, "Oh, I'm getting a headache" or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, or after 1,000 years I'm free, it's time for revenge or whatever. Like I
Hmm.
liked it. I thought they wrote her well for what she was as a robotic villain.
Yeah. I thought it was fine. I've heard people complain about like, uh, why is she a robot? Blah blah blah. I get it. Yeah. As we talked about earlier, all the Ranger scenes originally were like Japanese films. And
Yeah.
Rita Repulsa, that was all Japanese actors and people in
Hmm.
suits and stuff. And so, but they were able to get the actress who did the American voice of Rita
Yeah.
to reprise her role. So at least we had that. I was happy to hear the voice be pretty much the same 30 years later. Um,
Yeah.
but I thought it was a cool concept. I liked how it started. It started in one place, and then we jump forward, and then we go back to find out what happened. Like so, we
Yeah.
we see it. You know what? It honestly, it almost made it seem like it was going to be even bigger and crazier and better than it was in the beginning because of that that slow motion, like Billy getting up off the ground in the beginning. I was like, oh man, this is about to be some like adult Ranger stuff, man. This is gonna be like really dramatic, and it
Right.
was more dramatic, but um, I feel like they went really hard in that opening scene to make it like feel really intense. And um, I love that they didn't tell us what the hell happened. Like
Yeah.
specifically, they're just like, why is Rita here? Like everyone's wondering. No, we don't find out until like 20 minutes into the show that like exactly what happened. But I love that they did that, like played with time a little bit in the story they did. Trini's death 1 year later, and then remembering back to what happened with the original Alpha. It's like, yeah, how did Rita come back? This doesn't make any sense. And why is she a robot? And I love that it was like she just infused herself with Alpha 8, and this new Alpha is just the next gen. It's Alpha 9. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty clever the way you could bring her back like that.
I thought so too. I thought so too. And honestly, it kind of makes me hope, if in some worlds this series were to continue, could they bring back Zordon? Right.
Yeah.
This was the thing
Yeah.
I was upset by. There was no Zordon cameo. I feel like that
Yeah.
is something that was missing. And I was also okay with it because, Zordon was guiding these teenagers, right?
Yeah.
It also goes to show like, no, they don't need him anymore, so to say. They've learned the lessons. They're the mentors now.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they kind of are acting as the Zordon character in this, mentoring young Min, the newest ranger.
Yeah.
Um, what did you think of Min, of this character coming in as Trini's daughter and being so full of vengeance and revenge,
I loved her. I loved her. I know she got some hate, I'm sure, for
Of course she
oh
did.
the character wasn't realistic or whatever. But I'm like, it's a what 15-year-old teenager who just lost her mom like 1 year
Mhm.
later. Like it's exactly what I would expect a teenager to be doing, especially Trini's daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Seeing her moves outside of her uniform, um, I am willing to bet she does know some martial arts or
I think
something.
she's trained. I think I read that she's like a
Yeah.
trained martial artist.
She looked really fit for one. Like she was doing these poses, and I'm like, damn, she's got like some biceps on her. She looked like kind of tight. Like she looked like she works out, and she looked like she had some moves. Like, oh, she actually can move like the character that's in the suit moves. So that was cool
Yeah,
to see. I always loved. I think my favorite Rangers were always the ones that in real life were martial artists, like Austin St. John was. Um, you know, Jason David Frank was a martial artist.
Steve
And
Cardenas.
yeah, and it showed,
Yeah,
when they were on the show fighting outside of uniform. Then you could see the ones that were not, like Amy Jo Johnson. She did not look like a martial artist when she
right.
was fighting. Like, it was just way more apparent. But
So I just googled this. So she, Charlie Kirsch, she is a Taekwondo Extreme Martial Arts World Champion, as well as a Creative
wow,
Martial Arts World Champion.
nice. Okay, yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
shows like that, and that's good casting. Like, say what you want about, if someone wants to criticize her acting, at least she's a martial artist. Like, and that's
yeah.
really her doing those moves. Like, that's awesome. So I dug the story. Like, this just came to mind, so I got to bring it up before I forget.
Tell
Bringing
me.
back, bringing back Billy's Volkswagen Beetle, but like modernizing, like souping it up. That was so awesome. Like, I love that they brought back the flying beetle and that
Yeah.
it was like different. Like, it wasn't the same crappy beetle, but it worked the same way. Like, remember, like the windshield wipers came on and then it started
Hmm.
flying. That's like, I remember them having those same issues in the series, like pushing buttons and it's like, oh, how do we get it to work? And then it takes off. Um, that was great. I love seeing that again. I love that when she goes out to I kind of wish that they would have saved that reveal of the car for when she comes out looking for a car. In that scene where she's like, "Oh, that's too flashy. Oh, that's too showy." She's like, "Oh, here we go."
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
They should have saved that scene or reordered them in a way that like that's the first time we saw it again. I feel like that would have been
Hmm.
much bigger reveal than just like, "Oh, we're at the cemetery and it's parked right there."
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that.
But overall,
Hmm.
man, it did so many little callbacks, so many
Yeah.
nods. Like, even that final scene where they had Kimberly singing and the whole original team there. It was like,
That
oh, I
broke my
remember.
heart. That broke
Yeah,
my
it's like
heart right there.
I remember that, like that episode. That was an episode of Power
Yeah.
Rangers, and I love that they used that. I I so wish, like, in my head, I'm like imagining what could have been if it was an 8 episode um like series, and if they had all the Rangers, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that would have been great. Like, piece them out a little bit, introduce them back in throughout, and
Yeah.
have it be a surprise. I was kind of like holding out hope that there would be some surprises in this. Like,
Hmm.
I know we said we couldn't get this person, and you've heard it that we didn't get them, but here they are. The whole like Toby and Andrew thing. Like, no, we're
Yeah.
not in it. We don't. That would have been awesome to see them, but for what it was, it definitely took me back. Like I said, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't have watched it 4 times in preparation for this review. Um, and I was so excited when you reached out that someone else was that pumped to talk about it. Like, I have a lot of friends, like around my age, and they're into geeky stuff. But like, you have to be almost like I said, you either have to be an exact age or you just have to be really into the fandom of that thing. That's just that's what it is. It's like finding someone that was into X-Men the animated series, but if they were born in like 2005, it's like this really old throwback. You know,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I like a newer, like Wolverine and the X-Men or something newer. Um, but the fact that you know the history of the Power Rangers and you've seen Mighty Morphin, like I love that. And I love how excited you were. I in no way I expected to do a little 10-minute review by myself of this. And then I'm literally sitting in my car. I was at the pharmacy waiting to fill my wife's prescription, and it was taking like a long time, like 30 minutes. So I'm like, I'm gonna start watching Power Rangers. It came out today, and so I'm watching it on my phone. And you texted me like as I'm watching it, dude, if you're gonna review this, I want it, you know? And I'm like, yes. Are you kidding me? Like, it would have just been me, a 10-minute in out and over review. Like, yeah, I loved it. It was great. Done. But I love that I had someone to discuss it with and someone that like loves and knows the characters. Like, I feel like a true Power Ranger fan has to know some of their last names. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you have to have some deep cuts knowledge going on to be like a real fan of the show. And I feel like you have that, which to
I
me
hope
is
so.
amazing. To me is amazing, being that you were born 10 years later than me, and
Yeah.
you still have the same love for something that, I saw debut on TV that you watched in reruns. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Fandom's great, man.
It really is. It really is. And I think like Power Rangers is gonna live on forever, honestly. And I
Yeah.
think actually, as I say that, we met at GalaxyCon Columbus last year. As of
Yep.
now, Austin St. John is one of the guests at this year's GalaxyCon Columbus.
No way.
Yeah. So
Oh
you will
man.
see me there trying to chat him up and get a picture with him.
I feel like in honor of this podcast and review right here, even though he wasn't in the show that we reviewed, we should both get a picture with him
Yes.
just for nostalgia's
Yes.
sake. I feel like
Just for
it's
nostalgia's sake.
yeah. I so yeah, did you like how they handled the death of Tui Tran? Like, does that, like, just making it so like, oh, she was killed by Rita, like that's what happened? Like, it's hard, right? Because we just had
Right.
something, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where they handled it pretty perfect. Like, you don't
Hmm.
get much more perfect in like handling a death than that. They didn't make it like, oh, one of the villains killed him, off screen, you know. Um, at least this like showed it on screen without showing the actress. But I don't know. At first, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But once I got into like the story that they were going to tell, and that it was based a lot on her daughter wanting revenge for her death, it made sense. I just Sometimes when I watch stuff where they use a real life death and try to weave it into the story, it sometimes it just comes off as
It's
opportune.
uncomfortable or forced.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. Yeah, like force. Like it's not opportunistic, but it's like you're gonna build an entire plot around you know uh, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Okay, it's a silly '90s kids TV show, but this woman really did die in a tragic car accident. 22 years ago, which is really insane that it was that long ago. But
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, it rubs me the wrong way when they do that. That's why I was so worried about Wakanda Forever, and I thought they actually did it really well by actually making it like they didn't make up a reason that he died. It was very similar to how he died in real life. Like,
Hmm.
he got sick, there was no cure, and
Yeah.
no one even knew that he was sick till the last minute, right? And that's exactly what happened in real life. And so they handled it beautifully. I worry when someone tries to work a death into a movie or series and do it by just telling a story of like how it happened.
Yeah. I think they did it smartly. I think how you would do it in universe, right, is bring back one of their biggest villains, right? not just some rando like, oh, this
Yeah,
putty, you know, give it
yeah.
meaning.
I
Because
love the
at the
putties.
time it meant a lot. At the time it did mean a lot.
Yeah. I love that they brought back the putties and they were pretty much the same exact putties, right? Um,
Yeah.
so my favorite putties were always the Lord Zed putties because they had the
The ones
Z.
that you had to hit them in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a ridiculous idea. Like, you gotta hit him in the Z. Like, of course they would wear a big giant button that said like "hit me
Uh-huh.
here," you know. Um, but I loved how they looked. I don't know, for some reason they looked cooler to me than the original uh putties. But I'm glad we got to see all that stuff. That's why I thought it was like missing Goldar and maybe Scorpina would have been
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like, and like I said, Lord Zed. But Power Rangers started with Rita Repulsa, two minions, and Goldar. Like, and then she brought in Scorpina. Like, it was on her moon base. I love that they had the final battle on the moon. I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Like the Kaiju Zord battle on the moon. And like I said, I thought that final fight scene with Megazord actually looked pretty good. Like, it wasn't perfect, it wasn't high budget, but it was better than the original series was. And like, you know, it- they kind of filmed those. It was like Japanese filmed, um, just like all the fight scenes were, right? Like, those scenes were clearly different than the scenes that they shot at um, the Juice Bar, the youth center in Angel Grove, right?
Right.
I
Right.
loved I loved seeing all that though. I love seeing the youth center again, and the juice bar, and
Just
I
all those
love
little callbacks. All those little
yeah.
callbacks.
I would have been really upset if we didn't see Zach do some hip hop keto, and I was
Yeah.
thrilled when we saw it, and she called it out like, "Are you hip hop breakdance fighting? Like, what are you doing?" I love it. I love that. And I don't know if Walter Jones has any martial arts experience or not. I think he can dance though, probably. He always did on the show, so I assume like that's his skill set in real life is like dancer.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I always thought it looked cool. Like, I love the shimmy he does. Every time he goes into his fighting stance, he does this like roll shimmy. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yes.
I love that. I love that. It's like iconic Zach.
So good. So good. What do you wish, just to like get us closing out, what do you wish moving forward, like, to come from this? Or just
Mm.
like, I don't know, just general summary. What are your thoughts overall?
As much as I would have liked to seen it be bigger than it was, I'm really glad that it exists because it was a lot of fun. And how could this conversation we're having doesn't exist without the show, and
Yeah.
just all these feelings flooding back of the original. Like, as silly as it is, I don't know if you've went back recently and tried to watch original Power Rangers. It is a little tough, but
It is.
it's still like I have a pull to it. Like, I kind of want to, now that you're telling me about other iterations, and I know that it's like generational, and I definitely know that Jason David Frank had a lot to do in further seasons. Like, he ends up coming back as like a teacher or something, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
different rangers, like you said, like different rangers. It's like I almost want to just binge all of them,
You should.
binge them all as a almost 40-year-old man, just watch all of the Power Rangers with my kids sitting there going like, "What are you watching? This is
Yeah.
this is
Why
cringe."
not?
You um, yeah, I might just do that. I might just
You
go.
should.
Yeah,
Do it
I
and
mean,
let me know what you think.
see, you're not gonna do it. You're like, okay. Um, but I guess would I like to see more though? Like in the future, would I like to see? I don't know. I hope that this gets some younger people to go back and watch Mighty Morphin. I think, and maybe kind of reinvigorates the fandom, and maybe we don't get more of this, but maybe we just get more attention around it and more of the actors at cons, more signings, more pictures, more, I want to see them in the public eye again, even if it's just to be remembered as Power Rangers forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I genuinely think like this was a love letter to fans and to the OGs. This might be one of the best things in the Mighty Morphin brand. You know, there were stakes, there was consequences.
Mm.
The main characters had arcs. Like honestly, I'd be down for more of this, right? Like a Mighty Morphin
Yeah.
Next Generation, right? And
Mhm.
if this is also the last time we see the OGs, at least they went out on a high note, right?
I'm glad we got to see them as middle-aged humans. I
Yeah,
really am. And I gotta say, they looked really good
yeah,
for 30 years later. They're
yeah,
all in their, I guess they would be late 40s. Um,
probably, yeah.
Walter Jones looks exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, David Yost definitely looks like an older man, but he
Yeah.
looks great. He's in great shape. I was looking, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I said, Billy's got more muscles than he ever had on the show.
Yeah.
He is like, he's in great shape. So I was happy to see them. That's something you don't get to see often. It's kind of like when they did the Saved by the Bell reboot, and you got to see those
Yeah.
original characters as middle-aged men and women. It was
Yes.
wild. And it's like you always wondered as a kid, and it's something we didn't have as kids, like this revisiting of
Yeah.
something from 30 years ago that happens
Yeah.
all the time now. You get to see your favorite characters as old men, and old women.
Yeah.
Like it's it's so special about it because when you were a kid, you always wonder, like, I wonder whatever would have happened to, like, what would the Red Ranger be doing right now? What would,
Right.
and it's cool that we actually get to catch up and see that. That's probably the coolest thing of it is seeing, like, if they would have done some sort of reboot where it didn't involve the original cast, I wouldn't have cared for it at all. I love that they brought back original actors,
I
and I
agree.
think they did the best they could with what they had. You know,
Yeah.
sure, it would have been better if everyone could have been involved and everyone got along and everyone was happy with making it. But with what they had, I think they did something really, really cool.
I agree. Fully agree. And a shout out to uh Johnny Young Bosch who plays Adam. By
Mhm.
far still the best actor of the bunch, but everyone else did their best.
Yeah, yeah, he got like 4 lines in this, but
Yeah.
whatever. They were greatly,
Yeah.
great delivery on those lines. Um, and cool. Also, Karen Ashley as Aisha, like I was kind of upset because she's still really in the fandom. Like she has
She
her own
is.
podcast that's all about like she has like a nerd cast where it's like all
Yeah.
about pop culture and nerd stuff. So I was kind of surprised she wasn't featured more prominently in it. But what are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. It was a fun trip down memory lane, and thank you so much, dude, for wanting to do this with me. It's been a
Thank
lot
you,
of fun.
dude. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, hopefully we'll see each other again. Columbus Fan Expo.
For sure. Let's do it.
Stay in touch, man.
All right. Talk to you later, Brett.
Later.